Dexter Story, thank you for joining us on the show. I wanted to chat to you about a few things, and the first thing was about self-talk and our own inner language, the inner voice. The power of one's own language has much to do with one's own transformation and personal growth. When you were studying at Berkeley, you took a class with a Ghanaian master, Anglo Eve, the drummer. The Anglo Eve drummer, CK Ladzekbo.
Ladzekbo, yeah.
Yeah, and there was a student that inquired about the word beat and music time in in Ghanaian, or his native language, and that would seem to be and there was no meaning for them in his language. And that seemed to be a bit of a life-changing moment for you. Tell me more about that.
It was. Well, thank you. Thanks for asking about that particular incident. And yeah, it was a turn for me. We all have those moments in our lives where it's a point of demarcation. Just almost like a line in the sand, if you will. And this was one for me where my African professor, CK Ladzekbo, in the Bay Area, from the famous Ladzekbo family. A lot of people have studied with him and his family. I was just in the audience. No one was paying attention to me at this time, but it was my epiphany where, like you said, a student asked, well, what's your word in your language for beat and time, and it's kind of timekeeping, groove, beat. And CK shook his head. I remember him shaking his head and saying, all right, we don't have a word for that. I say it was a turning point in my life, because at that moment, I assumed that everybody was on the same page about everything. You think that growing up sometimes, for me, it was a late epiphany. For some others, they may get it at 5 years old. Maybe I got it at 5 years old, but hearing it again, when CK said, we don't have a word for that, it had me realize that, all of this life is relative. Everything is relative. It's really our interpretation of something, and each one of us comes with that interpretation. But even on a cultural level, every culture comes into this, on this planet, and forms around their culture and their community and their people, on their own terms. And, we may have the Western lens on everything, like how we other, in anthropology, historically, the othering. But it had me start to see things from CK's perspective. It had me start to see from another's lens. Some people call it, empathy. Some people call it, any number of terms, But for me, it was that moment where I said, oh, okay, so the way to learn this particular African music is not necessarily to come from it, from my perspective, from my lens, from the beat groove lens, but to listen from maybe a communal perspective, to maybe, enter into this music through a different door. And it's applicable to really every moment in our lives, that opportunity to see it from another person's view.
It seems like it wasn't more just about like the layers of understanding music, but it seems like this epiphany had an impact on just the way you look at very various parts of your life, and the power of and not just self-talk, but the construction of and what you said before about relative, the way we look and the lens that we look at life, and it's based on other people's perceptions and our own perception. And so I guess it seems like it impacted you not just with music.
Absolutely. It wasn't, because I mean, I have this, saying, how you do anything is how you do everything. Like we try to parse out, little, components of our lives and try to say, well, this is how I do this and that's that over there and this is that. But really, it had me start to see life in that way, and that kind of, synergistic kind of holistic kind of, construct where it wasn't just about music. Yes, I took the lesson was musical for me, and I started playing with, a number of different bands and people, and I started opening up to playing with more and more people. Some I'm not so proud of, some of the bands. But it also had me start to see life in that way, and have, it helped me accept and tolerate and, in any way, in some ways, just have compassion for people, and to maybe have a conversation with someone I wouldn't normally have a conversation with. It was transformative. It's a moment of transformation that I cherish, and I keep it with me. And I have a buddy who shared that moment with me, fortunately. So I have someone I can call and say, you remember that day, he said that. And we have a great, we're he's one of my best friends, but we have a great moment going back to that class.
I guess, and for the two of you, it obviously was a time for you both to receive that kind of lesson as well. Sometimes, there could have been other people in that audience that just went right over there. Yeah. So self-reflection, and using that also for, overcoming challenges in your life. And you spoke about fear and the construction of fear being
ontological.
So,
ontological, possibly. Yeah. Because and I'll say this. We all have a concept of fear. We grow up with an idea of what fear is. I fear that. But even that's relative. The person that grows up in another country, has a different relationship to the sound of airplanes. A different concept of life, just from the vendors, the street vendors, just the different sound in the streets. You go to all parts of Europe, and you have a different concept of these, even the width of a street. So even your sonic relationship, is relative. So fear to me is the same thing. Like I have friends that I grew up with that just had different concepts of fear. Now, one of your questions is, okay, so what was that moment? For me, it was just getting that even fear is an opportunity sometimes for people. I have so many people I admire in their pursuits of life, from climbing Mount Everest.
Use it as a compass, yeah.
Yeah, like the people that climb Mount Everest, or swim across channels, or fly a plane around the world. Their concept of fear is completely different than my own. And I'm sure everyone can relate to these different levels and different kind of planes of and spaces of fear, even.
Sure,
but for me, Go on. No, I was just gonna say, but for me, that was like a turning point. Just another turning point where I started to get past my own fears, and it's all like, again, it's all relative. Like I may be getting past them in stages and steps. I think we all have those moments of victory, triumph around getting past something, getting past that wall, getting past that. Whatever it is for you. And when I got past, a little bit of that fear of failure in my life, okay, it doesn't matter if I fail. Oh, failing is actually okay. Or failing is a sign that you're in the game, and so that was,
the narrative changes, doesn't it? Yeah. I think, like the fear with self-reflection, because it seems like the lesson that you learned from that transformative moment was also a lesson of self-reflection. And with fear, the construct of fear in our minds, the limitations that we form from experiences and traumas, that, how real are they? Like, the difference between someone putting a gun to your head or being chased by a tiger or jumping off a mountain, or they're things that's like to fear, but then actually those things that you're not actually really in danger, but these things can set off triggers that can put you back into a certain mindset. And so it seems like with that experience that you had at Berkeley, it also it sort of strengthened that self-awareness muscle of being able to distinguish the difference between what's real fear and what isn't. Am I correct by saying that? Yeah.
I think you're bringing up something really important, and that is, the self-reflective being, the awareness, self-awareness is an important, it's actually, wisdom of the ages, the whole notion of being able to see self, to kind of watch yourself in a sense, like what. That's a higher level of human being, if you will, the one that is not as reactive, so to speak, but that is watching watching the self. I mean, there are all kinds of philosophies around it. I don't want to get too academic about it, but it is, very, breakthrough. The idea that you can actually come to have a sense of yourself outside of yourself, like almost like watching the movie called You.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a skill, like like anything. The more you practice at it, the more you become better at it. It's a muscle, and
I think it's a muscle, right? Yeah. Right. That's a great way of putting it. And a lot of people call so many things now muscle. Yeah, even truth can be a muscle, if you will. But yeah, it definitely is a possibility, to become self-aware. And these moments, the moment and I want to just clarify, it wasn't Berklee College of Music. It was UC Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley in Northern California. I went to school there and took music classes there. But anyway, but at Berkeley, from my life as a child all up to Berkeley, through Berkeley, and through, my life, even up to this point, has been just, trying to build that muscle that you mentioned, of self-awareness. Because there are moments it's not absolute. It's not like you're just like, I'm always on, there are moments when you just kind of tune out and you become, your reactive self, your animal self, if you will. And so it's definitely a muscle, and it helps to have people around you that support you in building that muscle. And,
Totally.
And then read things and stay vigilant, reading things, making sure your diet.
Yeah. Well, I love how I see that you like to still consider yourself, a student at all times.
Man, bro. Like the more I know, the more I realize I don't know. I don't know. I'm humbled. I'm humbled by so many amazing musicians that are also sages. I could name a few, and just, I'm humbled by it all. And now, as I mentioned, I think I mentioned to you that I'm in a PhD program now. I don't consider myself an expert, and I'm not going to get some expert stripe. No, it's a process of learning and a process of that self-awareness we're talking about. It's really about me not knowing. And but it's funny, that not knowing and that, that being a work in progress and that being unsure and uncertain can also be a catalyst to experimentation and innovation and, and convenings and collaboration and community, that can be an opportunity. I find that when I walk into a space and my ego doesn't walk in before me, and I walk in with some humility and some some integrity.
I think as soon as you're aware of ego, it dissolves, right? So there's that.
I think, right. Paradox resolution, right? That awareness of something and then it disappears, right?
Yeah.
right. But it seems like when I walk in with a sense of not knowing and not really being an expert on anything, with some humility, that's the moment I can connect with people. Like for some reason, that's an opening for me. You know?
Yeah. Tell me a bit about with the work that you're doing at the moment. I love that the term you mentioned, the reverse engineering of yourself. Tell me a bit about that, and that you're now sort of coming around to concepts that and ideas that you had from decades ago.
Yeah. You know, what
does that look like? Yeah, explain to me what that looks like.
Yeah. Well, you know, for the listeners, I'm not young. You know, I'm maybe a couple of generations ahead of our youth today. You know, like I really, you know, and so for me to go from undergraduate school to the workforce, you know, to the marketplace, if you will. I worked for 3 decades before I came back around to getting my PhD, my master's and my PhD. And like, as I mentioned, I wasn't trying to, you know, become, you know, a master, so to speak, or, you know, a doctor. I was more interested in the process. And so going back to school now, I'm in school with people that are a lot younger than I am. I'm older than my professors. You know, and I'm older than the chair and the dean and the, you know, so I'm walking in with, you know, first of all, that opportunity to kind of look at, you know, my life in relation to theirs, you know, but what's happening now is, you know, I said reverse engineering because I'm coming across, you know, some of the knowledge that I've had. You know, knowledge to me is something, it can be ephemeral and fleeting, you know, like you can forget things. And at least I do. I mean, it's not like I'm piling something up in my brain. I'm really like, it's experiential for me. So yes, I have experiences, but sometimes the knowledge, they really, you know, specific knowledge, and the details I've lost. So coming this reverse engineering, me kind of back in school, or even with this mindset of kind of this growth mindset, if I'm trying to adopt, you know, is allowing me to see that I'm almost kind of, you know, building Dexter in reverse, you know, like taking a sound file and turning it around and then building a song on that, you know, if you will, which I've done a lot of, you know, with the number of groups I've played with and recorded with, but where I'm actually starting to kind of like start from the end and kind of, you know, do some Benjamin Button kind of like, okay, Dex, you've already done that, but now what are you going to do with it? You know, right. Okay, you already know that, but so what? You know, okay, you've already experienced a lot of things. So what? Mm-hmm. You know, how do you bring that into this space now where people maybe haven't had those experiences? Mm-hmm. You know, you're a little older than people and you have a little more experience than people, but who cares? Like what? So what are you bringing to the table today? How do you enter into this conversation, this discussion, this, you know, what do you write about now that you have maybe some experience on this planet? You know, so what? You know, what can you, so what, not only so what, you know, okay, so now what is your angle on this now? What's your, you know, I'm sure you've grown. So now what's your angle on that material and that knowledge that you've already, you know, that you already have, you know, like, okay, you know what I mean? I'm pulling myself not to be, complacent.
Right.
In my own process, you know. So I've got. Do you think
it's is it different from apart from fear, but also confronting societal conditioning as well? Like, is that part of this? Is that part of that process? Because are these things that are coming up to you with that reverse process? These things that are coming into your mind. And adapting to that mindset, is it generational sort of, or not generational, but is it more societal sort of things?
Sure. Yeah, it includes all that. You know, like you know, our notions of hierarchy. It confronts that. It confronts our notion of you know, even our thoughts about being, you know, older than another person, you know. We're socialized in particular ways. I can
relate to that, man.
Yeah, right. It also invites me to create anyway.
Yeah.
Like, okay, now that you've gotten that, there's some power dynamics here. There's some, there's a particular, something at play here, regarding how you've been socialized. Okay, so, hey, how about creating something anyway? What do you create now, though? What do you, what music do you write now? What do you compose now? What do you, and we're all going to experience it. Some of us, we live a little longer than others, but we all experience that moment of realization, or I would hope that we see, okay, wait, I'm no longer, my young self. I was watching, just very, current. I was just watching Justin Bieber on Saturday Night Live with Issa Rae as host, and I was blown away by his performance. But what I was really blown away was by his authenticity in the song choice.
Yeah. He's definitely evolved, hasn't he? Like
he's evolved, and I was proud of him. Yeah. Yeah, dude, you that inspired me. And never thought I'd ever say that I moved by a Justin Bieber performance, and not just his performance, but his way of being. Like, shoot, you've evolved, man, and thank you, because I'm inspired by that. But I think we all have that opportunity to kind of deal with ourselves and our lives, kind of in reverse way, if you will, kind of, and yeah.
No, I can totally relate to this. I'm just I'm going through similar stuff myself at the moment with I've been 20 years working towards a body of work with my music projects and how to sort of execute. And now I'm at this point where it's all come together and it's here. I was like, all right, what do I do with all this now? Like, I got to all right, I got to represent. I got to right. Man, it's funny. You get to a moment, especially during this COVID moment, where you're isolated, you're in your home, you're in your space, and you realize you've got everything you need to create. God, you've got mounds and stacks of guitars and synthesizers and percussion instruments, and recording, and you're like, there's no reason for me to go online and buy anything else. Sure, I can, I can use that as my crutch if I want to. I need to get that one thing, right? But really, there's a moment when you say, just create, just make something. Yeah.
Use what you got, man.
Yeah.
And why don't you clap your hands on a track? Why don't you, just put something down, man. Stop thinking.
It's definitely a sign of what's happening right now. Like, you can get so caught up. I think we're now tested because we're actually able to really see the distractions that we once had. We're now able to see them now so much clearer. Like usually, okay, well, let me buy something on Amazon, or let me just, or let me watch Netflix. Right. Yeah, it's crazy.
The excess, right? Yeah, it is. It's a crazy time, but it has given me that perspective. Like, wow, okay, you have it all. You have enough. I mean, look at all the books. Somebody, like you got enough to read. Come on, bro. I got enough albums. I have enough vinyl to check out to inspire me. Come on.
Go back to your catalogs.
Oh man, and I could definitely go on and stream something on Spotify or any number of platforms. I have access to it all now. There's no excuse for me not to create. But I'm not saying that anyone's making excuses, because there's a lot of music happening right now, But I was just speaking of the process of self-reflection.
But I also think what I'm finding as well is that some people this is the first time that they're having to reflect as well, and that can be very daunting. But like some people are not used to looking, or have never really looked within before, and self-reflect. And this is, I think this is part of the sort of global consciousness that's changing, because people are having to do that. I know it's parallel to the stuff that we're talking about, but I think this has an impact on it. Now, tell me about field innovation and field work, creating while surveying. How does this work?
Right.
I find this fascinating. So you're creating on the actual while researching at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I think it's something that I'm not the first person to talk about doing field work, like participant observation.
Sure.
It's a concept. It's a thing. And what I am starting to look at for my own trajectory now, even at my age and my own process, is not giving up on one or the other. Really, it is kind of honoring both of those things in ourselves. Like we talked earlier about, the othering that happens. I am looking at immersing myself in cultures that maybe I'm not as familiar with, or in musical situations that may be new. And at the same time, I look forward to observing and noting and maybe, interrogating, and who knows, even writing, and doing a manuscript, an ethnology, if you will, ethnography, on my observations. I'm also looking forward to pushing myself to do something to compose, to songwrite, to build something, even if it's just, a set of pictures, a series of pictures, a documentary, any number of things from that experience of observing. So it's like I want to come out of it, out of my field research with a couple of, not just a couple of things, but imagine two things kind of that are kind of in a dance, my observation of it, and trying to get on that side of it. Like I mentioned, with the experience with CK Ladzekpo, to kind of see it from someone else's eyes, but also to use my own lens and my own processing of that to create something, and to have both of those in the world, to have, an album, that's kind of inspired by my observations, to have a manuscript that's, that's inspired by, the observation of that which inspired the musical product. And that's the nature of fieldwork. Fieldwork is, I don't mean to say that fieldwork doesn't mean that I travel to, Eritrea, or, around the globe. I mean, fieldwork can happen right here in our home. Right. Like I stepped into Lemert Park last night, Sunday nights. I don't know if you heard of Lemert Park, but I stepped into Lemert Park last night at about 6:00 just to go get a juice, and it was lit. It was festival vibes, drummers, dancers, 5 sound systems, 2 literal DJs on the street, people eating, people watching, people observing. It was, that could have been field work right there. And I think there's a gentleman at UCLA who's doing field work on Lemert Park's jazz scene, the world stage. But this was something else. This was an entirely different. And I could have literally sat there and just taken notes on the experience. And then at the same time, I could have recorded something or gotten on the drums and became a participant of it and created something that I would maybe necessarily, release and send, diffuse around the world, if you will. But it was, if that gives an example of field work, localized field work.
Well, that, what is usually your process? Do you have a recorder? Do you take sound bites? Do you, or you said you take notes as well?
Yeah, I mean, the number of different, now I'm really into sound bites. I'm into using my phone to record sound.
Okay.
I think I would encourage, I don't know if anyone's even watching this that was inspired by this, but use your phone, not just to take pictures, but to record sound. Professionals understand this, when you see films, these recordists, these, sound engineers have not just recorded the dialogue, they've recorded the space. and they use that swatch of space to sometimes build a sonic scene. I really encourage us to do that. There's so many things I get from it. I come home and listen to them. I'm like, wow, listen to this moment. Listen to how the hand drums went into the heavy bass heavy sound system. Jamaican sound system. Oh, listen how now you hear kids and the children playing in the background. Wow, and I do this all the time. Not just snapping shots, but taking sound pictures, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really, really, really wonderful to do.
But
the answer, because that's what, that's part of my process, recording. Yes, I have, the H4n, and I have some, gear that I use. Sure. Yes, I do use, my phone as a camera. I use my phone more often because it's distracting for me to walk in with the camera and my, the boom and I like it, having it be natural, so I like to be able to hold my phone in my hand as if, and record sound just for my own use. I haven't used any of this. I don't put this stuff on my records because I don't really have, necessarily the right to, if you will, because that's a whole different conversation too. Right. But it definitely inspires me. There are times when I've actually put a sound file on in my DAW and then recorded music to the sound bite. Because that inspires me, being in that space.
Right. And so it's not necessarily used for samples or anything. It's to take that back to the lab and work from that. Like, grab what took your attention, and say, okay. Yeah. Get the emotion from it. What you feel?
All of that. If I had been in the space with my instrument, what I have played. I might have been jamming out with a quartet. I might have been doing something really synthy.
I love that, man.
And then you strip away the sound bite, and you've got something that you created. Parallel to a moment that you were able to capture.
I love that. That's awesome. You have a few projects in the pipeline now. Have you worked out from the collaborative albums that you wish to produce or you're producing? Have you worked out who you want to be working with on these forthcoming albums?
Thanks for asking. Yeah, I've released my last 2 records on Soundway Records. Yes. Miles Claret, shout out Miles and Alice and Paula and everybody at Soundway. I've been really blessed to have records released on that label, and I look forward to releasing more. Right now, there's an album that I released with Kindred Spirits that I'm actually going to now re-release through Soundway called Seasons.
Okay.
I remixed and remastered that. It was a collaborative effort with a sound engineer who just remixed things and kind of made it sonically updated, if you will. Okay. But at the same time, during this COVID moment, I've been doing some music with my partner, Carlos Niño. We just finished a record that I'm really excited about.
Okay.
And, man, I mean, I'm so excited about it. I don't want to disclose everything about it, but we'll be finishing it within the next, couple of weeks, and it's that close to being finished, and we're delivering it to the folks at Soundway for a first look, and it's more of a duet kind of collaborative moment with Carlos, and I'm really proud of it as well. I have so that's 2 Seasons, re-released the new record with Carlos, and then I have an album, my own derivative album, my kind of like East African sounding record that I'm piecing together. Like I feel like I have the record. There are just some people I want to put on it that I want to work with, and it's been tough during COVID to I don't know. I just haven't felt as confident reaching out to people as confident about this record, but this is the one that's probably after the one with Carlos and Seasons re-release.
Is this like a follow-on from the?
It's from Bahir, yeah. So Bahir follow-up. Yeah, right, yeah. It's a follow-up, Wyndham Bahir, and then this one, yeah. And so I'm excited about this record as well. And there's some people I want to work with. Like there are folks. I want to do something with Georgia Ann Muldrow. Oh, that's my baby sis. Man, I just love. There's so many people. I manage Miguel Atwood-Ferguson, so Yeah, it's collaborative. You know, we're all a community, but I can't wait to do more music with Miguel. Miguel is incredible. I look forward to working with, you know, this. I already on this new record with Carlos. I worked with Randall Fisher. I just love Randall Fisher. He's a tenor saxophonist in Los Angeles. You know, a young lion. You know, but I would love to do something with Terrace. You know, Terrace Martin. There's so many people I want to work with.
Is this your wish list that you're telling me now?
Yeah. I just had to throw out my wish list, but there's so many others. There's so many great musicians, you know, and there's so much great music out right now. You know, I mentioned Georgia because I've been listening to her record, Jyoti, and you know,
the Jyoti project. Wow.
Jyoti.
I just listened to it the other day. It's so amazing. I think she's just an amazing artist.
She's connected. She's
just seeing, she's tapped in, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, she's tapped. Have you heard Joshua Johnson's album? Joshua Johnson, another LA based musician who plays alto saxophone and keyboards. Okay. He's actually the music director for Leon Bridges, I believe, right now, and his new record.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Take a listen to this. But there's so many other people, you know, Henry Wu, and everybody's just releasing some bomb records right now.
It's like everyone's been in their bunkers right now. You know?
Yeah. No, it's a good time, you know. And I'm leaving out so many, you know, amazing people and records I've listened to. But you know, I'm excited. You know, dinner party. You know, just so many. There's so much great music right now.
Absolutely. I guess this is the positive of this world situation that we're in.
Yeah.
Dexter, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today.
You too.
Fascinated by the way you articulate your music process and just your journey and the way you're a true artist. I love it.
Man, thank you. I'm a work in progress. Thank you, though.
Please tell the listeners where they can find you online. Instagram.
So go to Instagram under my name, Dexter Story. You know, at Dexter Story. Appreciate the support and the likes, if you will, and I'm also on Twitter as Dexter Story. That's my name all over the place, but IG is kind of hang out there a little bit. I hang out there as Wondom Music too. Wondom Music. That's kind of a private.
It's Wondom.
Wondom is my band. The Wondom Band. The Wyndham Band.
Okay. Got it.
So, but Wyndham Music is my little hidden site where I just kind of post pictures and interesting little things that I'm observing. It's my ethnographic site, if you will. But you could say that everything is ethnographic for people now, though, you know. But yeah, the Instagram, Dexter Story, and then that'll lead you to everything else, as well as my website, dexterstory.com. It's just at myname.com. And, you know, I'll be updating on some new developments soon. But I appreciate all the support. And this has been a great conversation with you. I really appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for taking the time, especially early in the morning in LA.
It's all good. Great.
All right, Dexter, take care. I'll speak to you soon. Hopefully see you in LA one day soon.
Yeah, I hope to see you soon. Yeah, blessings everyone. Yeah, blessings all. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.